Hey everyone, Josh Armstrong from US Workboats, and I'm up here in my training room and I'm real happy to report to you, besides the fact that it's a Monday, the other good news is I finally got my welding machine set up here. Now that I got my welding machine, everybody's going to think, well, now today we get to learn to weld aluminum. Well, not yet. We're still talking about fabricating aluminum, and then the welding is going to be easy when we get there. You know how to fabricate, welding is easy. So wedges, dogs, and the Hickie bar is the subject. By wedges, I'm talking about this here. It's a steel wedge. I'm talking about this aluminum wedge. They make plastic wedges, by the way. We don't use those because we got a metal shop. Now, that's wedges. We'll talk about those a little bit. Now, dogs, we're not talking about the pet. We're talking about the action. And we're dogging something down if we're trying to get it. We're going to hold something down, get it even or flush or whatever. We're going to use things like these saddles. These are saddles, but we're going to dog something down with a combination of either the Hickie bar and the wedges. We dog it down saddles. Sometimes we're going to use this lollipop chain pull. I mean, use this really nice piece of angle here that I got out of the scrap bin. It's got a notch on the end. Sawed that out of there, and use both ends of that angle. We're going to dog stuff down. It's going to be an action. And we got this really cool unit right here. I don't know if you guys like this, but I love this thing. This is called a Hickie bar. You're going to go, what are you going to do with that, Mr. Armstrong? Well, I'm going to show you today what I'm going to do with it. I learned about one of these things when I was 16 years old, working at a shipyard. Some old Scottish guy says, hey, why don't you use a Hickie bar for that? I think he called me something derogatory too. That was okay because he was an old guy and I respected the fact that he wanted to show me something. So he told me what to cut out, and I cut out some pieces out of steel and made one of these Hickie bars out of steel. I've had a few steel ones, and I actually like a steel one. They're a little heavier, but they're really tough. Aluminum one is light and super handy, and everybody should have one of these if they're fabricating. I've probably made 100 of these in my life, and I've probably made a dozen or maybe 20 of them here at US Workboats. And I think a lot of people throw them in the trash because they don't know what it is. So it's got a wedge welded to one end. It's got this jaw on the other end. You're going, well, it looks cool. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to show you. Thanks for coming today. We're going to learn some stuff about fabricating. A little bit more about wedges. This one's an aluminum wedge. I just made it. The profile is real nice. It's about 6 inches long, 3/4 of an inch thick here, a little rounded. It's a perfect sort of shape for using for fabricating. It's made out of aluminum. It's just a piece of plate. I cut it out. Now I'll tell you that aluminum is my favorite material to do just about everything with, except for when it comes to wedges. Wedges made out of aluminum aren't going to last us very long. They're going to do okay. I mean, you could have a wooden wedge or a plastic wedge or aluminum wedge. But really, when you want to get serious and you want to beat on something and you're wedging it down, you often have a hammer. Probably a little short. I think that's I don't know whether that's a 2.5 pound sledge, I think. This here wedge is actually a logging equipment tool. It's about 1.5 inches thick, about 8 inches long. You know, that's an okay wedge. It's a nice wedge, actually. It's a purchased one. I'm going to take this here piece of steel plate. It's also just a little over 1 inch thick. It's a piece of flat bar, I guess. I'm going to take, and I need to find some welding chalk and a cutting torch, and I'm going to make you guys some wedges out of here. Steel wedge is a better kind of wedge to have because it's stronger than the aluminum, and we can beat on it with a hammer and really get some work done. There's also a little bit of a profile I'm going to cut on the back end of it so you can beat it with this hammer to get it back out again. So that's just a little bit about wedges. Okay, everybody. The moment has come. We need to weld something. We're actually not going to really weld a lot of stuff. We're going to fabricate, which means we need to tack some stuff together. An tack is actually a small weld. And there's proper tacks and some improper tacks. But the first thing we need to know when we talk about welding, especially aluminum welding, is there's a tremendous amount of ultraviolet light. Now, the ultraviolet light is why we have a helmet. We have a lens in here. That's a number 11. This is a real old school helmet. This thing's worth about 45 bucks. It's a Celstrom, I think. I like it. You'll never catch me with one of those computerized things because they don't work very good. Not worth the time of day. I'll never own one in my life because they're junk. A lot of people would argue with me about that, but that's okay. I don't mind that. So another thing is I still have my green shirt on, but I got another shirt on underneath here, and it's a long sleeve. Now, if you want to weld with short sleeve and be macho, it doesn't bother me. You can actually wear one of those tank tops if you like one of those little, I don't know what they call those things, but you wear one of those. I'll tell you what, you'll find out. You'll be bright red when you go home. You get burned. If you have exposed skin, it's going to burn. So even if you're tacking stuff, you're going to find out, you go, wow, burn me. Okay. Another thing is if you're fabricating with somebody and you don't always have your helmet, you're going to find out sometimes it's nice to put a little sunscreen on. You get a little bit of an extra tan. The ultraviolet light, you know, ultimately, I don't know if it's good for you to get a sunburn, but it's about the same as the sun. It's just more intense, so you get it quicker. So anyways, I got a long sleeve shirt underneath, and I'm going to wear one glove while we do this work. Next thing I'm going to do is introduce a quick concept to you guys. So welds have a directional strength. So for starts, I got my machine turned on, got it set up. I'll turn my gas bottle on. By the way, a real simple concept here for you guys. We need to turn the machine on, and we're going to need to turn the gas on to be able to get it to work. And at the end of the day, I sure wouldn't mind if you turn your gas bottle back off and the machine off. So I don't know how many times for how many years I got to turn your machine off and your gas bottle, but if you wonder if I'm impressed, the answer is no. It doesn't impress me if you can't turn your machine off. All right, next. Now, in terms of welders, I asked our maintenance guy, said I'd like to have you bring one up to my training room, and what I'm looking for is the oldest welder, the lowest tech, and like the one that was in the worst condition. I like to have the worst machine people complain about the most. Because everybody says, yeah, well, the welder wasn't working good. The welder wasn't working good. Are they talking about the machine, or are they talking about the fact they don't know how to use it? Well, I'm here to tell you, they don't know how to use it. This thing has been out for years and years and years. I got an XMT 304, which is just a good machine. It's just fine, constant voltage machine. And we got an old school XRW. I bought a whole bunch of them on a pallet one day. And I got a reasonable gun. It's not high tech. There's no extra knobs, dials. It's just low tech. That's okay. It's fine. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take and we're going to put this piece on here. And I'm not going to flash everybody. So I don't know how it's going to turn out through the camera, but I don't want my cameraman getting blinded. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop for a second. I'm going to put a weld on here, and then we're going to talk about a concept, okay? Be right back. All right, guys. So I got my first bit of welding done on my bench, and I actually took my piece and I actually tacked it down here, because what I'm really trying to simulate here is not something we can clamp. It's like part of a, you know, we're inside of a boat or somewhere where we can go, hey, we have like a physical piece attached to the wall that we're working with. So I welded this down so it didn't get away on me. And I put a weld here and actually look down at this, okay? A couple things about that weld. It's got a really nice color to it. It's got a fairly even bead profile. Looks like the welder that's a piece of junk works pretty good for me. All right, but I put a weld on this side of this plate only. I didn't put one on the other side. I need to come around just a little bit. I can get my cameraman to come around and we'll look at the other side of this plate. There's no weld here. All right? No weld. And my fabulous Hickie bar, I don't know if you can see it. You're going, oh yeah, we were wondering what you're going to do with that, Mr. Armstrong. Well, I'm going to slip it on top of here. I'm going to tell you, if we go to push on it this direction, we cannot break that off of there. We can try and break that off of there. And I'm telling you, I could push on it really hard, like with all my body weight. It's not going to break. It will not. However, watch this. All right? This thing has directional strength. Watch this. I'm not going to try real hard. And that's off of there. No problem. All right? Okay, so if we weld on, by the way, that was a good weld. We weld on this side, We can't pry it off that way, but we can pry it off that way. Okay, it's a really important concept with a fillet weld is that it has one way you're going to have to break it in half, the other way you just fold it off. Really important concept for you guys, and we're going to need to know about it as we start to fabricate. Okay guys, well, that was pretty cool. We learned one thing. Now we're going to join two pieces of plate together, and we're going to say, hey, these are both 1/4 inch plate and they've got some curve to them. All right, well, all plate has curve. Some has more than the other, but when they make this stuff, they coil it out flat and then they spin it in the factories up into like a roll of paper towel. Okay, and they ship it all over the planet, and then when they flatten it back out, shear it off to send it, you know, to people like us, it's always got a little bit of curvature in it. And so we can use that to our advantage or our disadvantage. However, I got two pieces with a little curve. I'm going to turn one right side up and one upside down. What we're going to find out is they don't line up with each other. Okay? I got a beautiful workbench, and I can say, hey, well, why don't I just clamp it to my bench? It's like, well, that'd be pretty easy. I'm trying to show you guys there's another way to do it. Now, we're going to have when we're taking like a 20-foot plate and another 20-foot plate and joining them together, there's a couple things we need to know. One is we're going to start in the middle and we're going to work out from there. It's always the way that we do it. But we can go, well, is there anywhere where it's close to even? And it's near the middle. Well, it's pretty good about here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one tack here. Then I'm going to push the actual middle down. So I'm going to do that. And I don't know if my cameraman wants to close his eyes or what he wants to do during this tack. But I guess if the video is on, he's looking this way, we'll do one. We'll see how it turns out. I'm going to put a small tack, and I'm going to put it right about here. All right, we're done. It's running a little bit black. Looks like I need to tip the post flow in that machine a little bit. Now, we're going to go, well, that wasn't very exciting, Mr. Armstrong. What's next? Well, here's what's next. This is not even, okay? I can bump something into there. If I take something and I put it into there, bump it into there. It's like, well, that doesn't look very good. If we build a boat like that, and we have the seams that are not even, we're going to gouge it and do all the weld prep, and then all of a sudden it's not even. It's never going to be even. It's always going to look bad. If we grind it flush, or if whatever we do with it, it's going to suck. It's going to suck forever. So we don't like that. So we're going to put this on here. This looks pretty low tech too. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and I'm going to put a little stitch on here. Now I didn't need a big weld on there. I just need a small one. All right. Now I welded here, and we know I can pull this off this way, or I could push. I could push this way. I could push up tight on here, and I could push up tight on here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can even it right up so it's nice and even. All right. And then I can put a tack on here. Eyes. All right, that was easy. Now it's even. I can go ahead and I can do that again. I can say, hey, let's pull that off. That wasn't too bad. And I go, hey, I got to do it over here now. All right? And I can get this, by the way, I can get this a long ways like this. Get it way out of, so watch your eyes. And I don't need a lot of weld there, and I can just pull that even. There you go. She's even. Okay, and I can break it back off. Okay, that's the first trick of the day, guys, because we've got that even here, nice and even here. And if we want to, and if we get one place where we're not perfect, we can come back, we can grind one of those out, cut it out, and we can do that again, and we can get that perfectly even. That's step number one with joining plate together, folks. Okay, so step number one is not quite done here. But I've put a couple more tacks on here, and I just wanted to go over this before I get on to step number two. And if we can take a look down at my plate here, I've got a couple little, what I would consider tacks, and they're about 1/2 inch long, 3/8 to 1/2 inch long. They're little stitches. They're tiny little welds. Okay, I don't like when people put what we would call a button. Now there's also, these are black, they need to be wire brushed before we go ahead any further. And there's a scab on here, that's what I'd call it, a scab. And that's because I've pried on there. I want to get rid of that before I go on because I don't like to leave a mess. Because I've heard about that every time I talk about anything, I talk about a mess. Now over here, we've got this thing, what more called like a button tack, okay? And that's one where you can kind of close your eyes and sunburn yourself a little bit and just hit it like that, one spot. Okay, sometimes we might use those to hold a piece when we're going, well, we've only got 2 hands. We'd sure like to have 3, but we don't. So we might do that, but we're never going to leave something like that because that's inadequate. The only thing that's going to happen to it is it's going to break. I don't like those. In fact, you could ask just about anybody who knows how I really think about them, and they're going to tell you that I hate them. So don't do them like that. If you do them, that just means you're holding it till you can get your second hand free, and so you can put a weld on there, a little small weld, a little tiny stitch. Now I'm going to put those 6 or 8 inches apart, and then I'm going to wire brush them here like this. Okay, I'll do that, which wasn't hard. Now I'm going to grind these couple of tacks off there, and you know the grinder is pretty easy to use. I'm going to double these ones up, wire brush that. I'll be right back with you for step 2. Okay, guys, step 2. Step 1, we already wire brushed this. We made our tacks a little better on there. We cleaned it off. Okay, we also ground the scabs off. Now I have this piece of 2-inch T-bar. We'll go ahead and put it on there. I'm kind of wishing it wasn't that flat. It's not perfectly straight, but it's kind of close to flat. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a tack down near this end. And I'm holding it down with my hand. And I'm going to put a tack on there, and then I'm going to show you the problem here on the other end. We'll be right to that. I'll be right back with you, okay? Okay, so our 2x2 here has a gap underneath here. We can see basically right in here there's a gap, right? Okay, well that's a real problem, isn't it? We want it to be down there nice and tight. Now I can pull that down there pretty easily, can't I? Well, that's because we just got a small piece of plate. What do we do if it's not very easy to pull? And I'll tell you, sometimes it's not very easy to pull. Well, I guess that's what I want to show you. We're talking about wedges, dogs, and Hickie bars. I'm going to take and I'm going to put the saddle over top of this, okay? And I'm going to put a small weld on this side of it. So our cameraman's going to close his eyes for a second. We've got a small weld there, and I'm going to do one on this side, eyes. Okay, because that has directional strength, we're not going to put our wedge this way. We're going to put it this way, all right? We're going to put it that way, and we'll prefer a steel wedge, as I said. We're going to tap on this. Now have a look at that, folks. That thing is right tight. It's really tight. It's perfect. It's not got any gaps in it. It's absolutely 100% perfect. Well, it wasn't too bad, was it? How about this? Let's tack that now. Okay, watch your eyes. Okay, got a nice little weld on there. Well, what's next? Well, how about we get our Hickie bar out here, because Mr. Armstrong likes that thing. Now, pull that a little bit forward just to relieve the tension on the wedge. We'll take and we'll bust that off that way. It's done. Look at that, guys. We got it nice and tight. That wasn't too bad, was it? Well, we could do that. We could do it along here again. We could do it again. We have a little bit of a gap over there. Maybe we will do that again. Maybe we'll do it and we'll pry it with the Hickie bar, because we're in a hurry a lot of the time. With your eyes. Eyes. Okay, guys. Well, as we saw, the Hickie bar has a wedge on one end. Well, let's just take and put it there and just pull on that, okay? Now, especially if you're working with 2 people, my cameraman, I kind of need him to come around this side. Okay, you can see that I can pull that, okay? Especially when I got my other guy who's standing there doing nothing watching, he can hold that, and eyes. Now we got another little weld on there. Well, that wasn't too bad. And we got our same tool in our hand. Wasn't too bad. We didn't need to hammer over the wedge. All right, I'll tell you what, I could put like a 25-foot piece of that on in a couple of minutes. Somebody was helping me. They don't need to know too much except which way to pry with the Hickie bar. We can tighten it on there like crazy, folks. It's a real simple fabrication tool. So that was a saddle and a little bit about the Hickie bar. we'll be right back to you with some other kind of problem to solve. Okay, guys, well, looking at this next situation, I'm going, well, it'd be good if I simulated something that was all messed up, was looking like it was going down the wrong path. So I had my T-bar on there real nice, and then I put this angle on here and I put it on crooked. I put it on there like somebody who didn't know what they were doing, or something that got put together and just, wasn't square. Not square is what I mean is it's all tipped over, and it's like it doesn't line up here. It's a 2-inch piece, and it lines up there, but it doesn't line up here. I'm going, well, no, it lines up, yeah, it's pretty good there. Okay, well, what should we do? Well, I guess I got my Hickie bar here. I always have my Hickie bar around. I'll just slip it underneath there, and I'll just pull that up about like that. I'll go, oh, that looks about right there. Looks just about good. Sure would be nice if somebody was there to help me hold it, but since there isn't, I'll go, well, I guess, see if I can get my welder over here whilst I'm showing you, and lift that up a little bit more till it's even, and then watch your eyes, and I'm going to put a little tack on there. Go, well, the Hickie bar is pretty useful, Mr. Armstrong. It sure is. Nice and even. All right, well, now all of a sudden I can't find my saddle, and I got a gap down in here. The gap, I can fit my screwdriver right underneath there. Wow, it's tight there, loose here, Mr. Armstrong. Doesn't look good. All right, well, introducing another trick. All right, we've got this little notch here on this piece of plate, or sorry, this piece of T-bar. It's got a little notch on you. 1 second, I'm going to reposition. I'll be right back with you, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that. Okay, guys, I'm back with you. I repositioned, and I said we got a gap in here. Hopefully we can still see that gap. A gap in here, and can't find my saddle now. We're going, well, that doesn't look good. But I have this notch in this piece of T-bar, and I did that because I want to show you something about it. A lot of times, by the way, we can fabricate with things that are all around us. We're going to tack it. We're going to put that right there. It's going to be up on the edge. Put it here. We know welds have a directional strength. We learned that at the beginning of this. Watch your eyes, and I'm going to put a little weld on here. Okay. We got a little bit of a weld on there. Now watch what happens. I can pull that this way. I can pull that. I can push down here. I can push there, which means that's pulling here. Okay, and it's going to take away that gap. Watch what's going to happen. Okay, now if this was a big boat, I can push real hard on there. Look at that. Looks great. Mr. Armstrong looks perfect. Hit it. Weld it. Weld it. Go. Perfect. Got it. That wasn't too bad. Now all we got to do, we're going to wire brush that a little bit. Okay? And we got that nice and tight in there. See, the screwdriver doesn't fit in there anymore. Well, let's keep going. Let's keep going, and let's come back and clean our scabs up. It's a few, okay, guys. We've talked a little bit about some real basic fabrication tricks. We talked about these saddles. I got different sizes. Okay. Now this one here has a pretty deep notch in it. We can put it over this piece. Go, okay, we want to dog that in there. Well, we need a real big wedge. Well, not really. We'll say, well, why don't we just we'll cut these feet off a little bit. We'll go, okay, that's a piece of 3-inch angle. We want to dog that down. It's 3-inch angle, and we dog that down. Well, we'll just go ahead and we'll cut those legs off. We'll cut them in the bandsaw. We won't cut them with 3. We'll cut them with 3 1/2 or 3 3/4, something like that. We'll cut them off. And by the way, when they get a lot of these scabs on here, we can just go run those through the bandsaw. We don't have to grind it. Just cut that off. We just cut our notch a bit deeper. It's a real good idea for us. Saddles are easy. They can make them on the CNC machine out of all the scraps. You can have piles of them, have hundreds of them. You see me building a boat, I got lots of these things, tons of them. Another thing I got a lot of is these. I called this a lollipop. It looks a bit like one. This thing, I'm going to use it in conjunction with this chain fall. Okay, chain fall here. Okay, well that's for doing real, when you got something that's got to be pulled in several feet, we're going to hook that in there. Okay, we're going to hook that in there and pull on it. We're going to weld it to something, we're going to pull. Okay, now we can get that in a tight spot. We've got to be careful where we put the weld, because we want to pull the weld tight. Now if we want to make that really strong, we're going to have to weld on both sides of that. If we weld on both sides of it, it's not possible to get it back off, okay, because it has directional strength 2 ways, Going, well, if we do that, we're causing ourselves a lot of work to take that thing off later. We got to get in there with a mechanical tool. Well, I have another trick for you, and then I'm just going to be just about done. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to weld something here, and I'm just going to be right back with you. I'm going to weld a couple different things, and I'm going to show you something. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I got an aluminum fabrication table, aluminum bench here, because one of the reasons I like to weld my work down a lot of the time, and I got this thing welded right down. This plate is welded down real solid so I can show you something. I was going to say we were going to put this chainsaw on here and pull on this here lollipop, but I've welded it here and I've welded it on the other side, so it's not going to come off. Actually, it's really, really strong, okay? So I could put my chainsaw on this too, here, this saddle. Now what I did with this saddle is I welded it on this side here, and my cameraman's just going to move around to the other side. I didn't have it welded here. I do have it welded there, and I don't have it there. Well, that's interesting, Mr. Armstrong. What's your plan there? Well, I'm going to pull on that, and I'm going to pull on it really hard. It's not going to break off because this has directional strength, and so does this one. All right, so now I'm going to break this off with the Hickie bar. Does anybody think this thing is going to break off? Okay, my Hickie bar's on here. It doesn't really work that good with that lollipop, but what I'm going to try and say is I'm going to pry on it. I'm going to pry on it really hard. It's not wanting to break. You know, eventually I could bend it and bust it and screw it right up, but it doesn't want to break. It's probably going to dent the plate, or I don't know, it'll break something, but it won't come off of there, right? Well, that's because it's welded on both sides. Well, okay, we cut that off there mechanically, or we could say, hey, maybe we could do it a different way, and let's talk about the saddle that was welded on two sides. Easy way to get that off is going to be to cut it. Okay, we're going to cut it like this. Now we go, well, what's next? Well, Hickie bar says that thing's coming off. It's coming off right now. Coming off this way because it breaks easy. Now, we can't go this way here because it's welded on that side. It's going to go that way. Done. Just ready for a little cleanup. We're finished. Okay, guys, I guess maybe I haven't welded on my new bench quite enough because I want to do one more thing. I just almost forgot to include this little bit, but what I did is here I put a square line on here. I put it on the edge of the table, and I actually just put a couple tick marks. It might be like, say, where a bulkhead's going somewhere. And then I have this piece of plate, and I purposely screwed it up so it's not really that straight. I'm going to tack it on there, and I'll show you something about getting stuff straight in a real easy way. And the cameraman's going to close his eyes once again, but he's starting to get used to that. Okay. Our welder's working like a hot damn, and we're going to try and move it over a bit, and we've got a good spot here. We're going to hit it again. Now we're going, all right, so now can't seem to quite push over to our line. We're getting too much force required. We're going, okay, well, go ahead and we'll stick in. Now, we have a lot of these, we shear them up. I like to keep some around. I like to call it like a fab square. And I'm going to push it over what I can, and I'm going to tack this thing on. Watch your eyes. Okay, now I'm going to slip that wedge in there, all right? And I can push this over because this isn't actually a bulk, it's just a little piece. I'm going to tap, 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 tap. And I'm starting to see my line come. I'm going, okay, that's starting to look pretty good. Go ahead and I'll tack it. Okay, and I'll just tap on it a little bit more. I'm going, well, looks pretty good. We'll give it one more here, and then maybe we'll have to move that. All right. Now you see how that works, and we can bash that off there. We can bash it a whole bunch. A lot of people like bashing on stuff with a hammer, but I actually like doing it like that. You know, just bending it back and forth with my Hickie bar. It's a way to straighten the bulkhead out, folks. Really super simple. Okay, well, what we found out, guys, is there's all kinds of things we can do with a piece of angle. We can do it with a saddle. It's just made out of a scrap of aluminum plate. We can do it with a lollipop that we made in the CNC machine. And we fabricated a bunch of stuff. We showed you some tricks. And the only thing left standing is the Hickie bar. This thing is great, okay? This thing is not going to get consumed. You're going to have a hard time breaking it. A lot of good tricks. Sometimes use what's right around you. You should have one of those. They're cool to make. I'll help you with it. Thanks for watching today, guys. I hope this was a little informative for you on the beginning of fabricating.